Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the STSU Informational News Network, where we deliver, well, informational news. I'm your host, Jaren Raquel. Our usual host, Miss Kristen Monteverde, couldn't be with us today due to some schedule conflicts, so I've been tasked to carry out this broadcast to you this evening. Today's subject is going to be California wildfires. You see, fire is a very destructive chemical reaction. It combusts and releases heat and light to produce a dangerous reaction that we know as flames. While useful in various applications, such as cooking or survival, it can be harmful when uncontrolled. Wildfires are just that, an uncontrollable fire that burns vegetation and wildland. These natural disasters can be detrimental to the livelihood of many individuals living in urban or rural areas. To get a better grasp on the situation, I'll be introducing the causes of these wildfires, why they're harmful for the environment, and the potential sustainable solutions to this problem. I'll be listing these off one by one, so stay tuned, folks. Our first topic has to do with what wildfires are, more specifically, the process behind which they are formed. As mentioned before, wildfires are very destructive and detrimental in nature. In recent years, the likely cause for these natural disasters has been humans. This is especially true with California. This is because of modern conveniences that people use for transportation, mainly airborne vehicles like planes or aircraft. California weather already enables the risk of natural wildfires due to its dry climate. Plants and wildlife have been affected by this climate due to the fact that the dry climate complements the flammability of these plants. The same can be said for man-made emissions from human activities, specifically from the aerosol particulates emitted from human aircraft. The air pollution that comes from aircraft is often the cause of wildfires in California because it produces pollution trails in the air that make their way into natural clouds. The pollutants that are contained in these chemicals include aluminum, barium, strontium, and burnt coal, otherwise known as ash. And no, I am not referring to Ash from Pokemon. Most of these chemicals are flammable, and are able to make their way into the environment through periods of precipitation. This would be due to the fact that these pollutants find their way into the clouds in the atmosphere. Through periods of precipitation, these pollutants can find their way into different areas of wildlife and water sources. Over time, these pollutants will build up, and so will the risk of wildfires. When it comes to connecting something like this to the 3 E's, it's obvious that it relates to the environment. The long-term effects of these pollutants can have various negative effects on different landscapes. There's also somewhat of an economic relationship to this problem. There's money involved in the production of aircraft fuel as well as other fossil fuels that people use on the surface of the Earth. If these pollutants were to persist in the far future, the amount of money and jobs that are needed to clean them up would be significant to the efforts of the global economy. While aircraft pollutants are the bulk of the problem, the burning of fossil fuels and other resources adds to it. Next up, we're going to be taking a look at the detriments that wildfires have on the environment. You see, the pollution already serves as a health hazard to the environment, as well as the people living in the areas that are susceptible to wildfires, but the problem gets more severe with the threat of wildfires themselves. This is because the harmful chemicals that happen to be the main cause of the wildfires complement the harmful gases and dangerous organic compounds that come from human-made pollution. As mentioned before, the atmospheric manipulation that comes from aerosolized fuel is an unconscious but deliberate pollution. The chemicals in these fuels and airborne pollutants are the primary cause of wildfires in places like California, Northwest America, and elsewhere. The flammable nature of these pollutants adds to the dry environment of California. Due to this, the probability of wildfires increases because of the pollutants that complement the dry atmosphere and temperature of the region. It increases the drought, as well as the combustibility of vegetation and trees, which causes wildfires. As we can see, ladies and gentlemen, the environment bursts into flames and... Oh no, get out of the way! Get out of the way! It's bright and everything's trashing terribly. Oh no, get out of the way, please! It's burning and bursting into flames and it's falling on the landscapes we live on. No, this is terrible. This is the worst thing that could happen in the world. Oh, the humanity! Oh, the humanity! Oh no, the humanity! Sorry, ladies and gentlemen, I just need to compose myself. The pollutants then get re-emitted by the fire itself. The toxic elements that started the wildfire then get put back into the atmosphere as a form of airborne pollution. This pollution, of course, causes adverse health effects for civilians. These include lung problems and chronic diseases. It takes a hit to both the environment and the economics of the world, seeing as how it causes pollution while leading people to seek medical attention. Medical attention which requires money. But this just begs the question. What are the solutions to this problem? How could we prevent these wildfires from happening? Well, we're about to discuss that right about now. Introducing sustainable solutions. Some of these solutions would include a reduction of fuels, ecosystem restoration, and community assistance. The pollutants that are contained within these fuels that people use are one of the main causes of wildfires. Adding ecosystem restoration and community assistance would reinforce the sustainability for this long-term solution. While it's not the most sufficient solution, it's a step in the right direction. Getting rid of one of the main contributors of wildfires would be a necessary step for reducing the hazardous material from the ecosystems that were affected by it. This would stop the pollutants from growing into the environment. Next, an economic foundation can be established with jobs focused on ecosystem restoration. It can be made up of groups of people that specialize in sustainable ecological conditions. They can lay the foundation for creating restoration practices. New practices wouldn't be necessary. Instead, a larger focus on existing practices would be sufficient. Furthermore, restoring these ecosystems with community assistance would add long-term effects to this solution. It pretty much works like this. Specialists would come up with sustainable practices that people can follow, they test said practices, and then people tend to follow them in the future. Kind of like a domino effect, if you will. Other factors could come into this long-term solution as well, such as a change of material for these fuels. That way, we don't have to risk putting detriments on our transportation, and we can keep using modern conveniences as we see fit, just with a better fuel source. This way, we don't increase the risk of wildfires, but instead we increase the risk of living a happy life. Wait, that didn't sound right. Well, anyway, moving on. While reinforcing sustainable solutions and encouraging ecosystem restoration creates more sustainable practices, urging people to take action would be another step in the right direction. All of these factors would affect the environment, economics, and equity of an area. And there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Overall, wildfires serve as a detriment to the environment because of the toxic pollutants that are involved with them, whether that be before or after the fires. The pollutants are harmful for the environment because they lead to adverse effects that have long-term damage to the ecosystem, as well as the people who live there. Combustion, toxins, airborne pollution, atmospheric risks, and diseases, just to name a few. By using sustainable solutions that include the changing of fuels to use more sustainable materials, ecosystem restoration, and community support, the detriments of wildfires can be reduced, and the environment, economics, and equity of an area will be nourished. For this broadcast, I'd like to thank our sources for giving us such credible information. We wouldn't have been able to finish it without them. With that being said, this is the ending of the SDSU Informational News Network broadcast on California wildfires. We at the studio would very much love it if you could give this broadcast a good grade. I wouldn't want our ratings to go down. Until next time, that's all, folks.